So hello, everyone. Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us to learn a little bit more about Boston University. My name is Samantha Fifield, and I am an assistant director on the Board of Admissions here at BU. I'm also joined today by a current student, Sebastian, so I'll let him introduce himself as well.
Hi everyone, it's great to see all of you here. My name is Sebastian Guzman. I am a current senior in the College of Communications studying film and television. I'm also a minor in the Questrom School of Business studying business administration. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
Hey, wonderful. We're so happy to have you with us today. So we sincerely wish that we could be with you in person to share our campus with you, but we hope that this webinar at the very least will allow you to learn more about what we're all about here at Boston University. Over the next 15-20 minutes or so, Sebastian and I will introduce you to BU. We'll talk about the application process for another 10 or 15 minutes, and then you'll have the opportunity to ask questions using the Q&A function below. So please do feel free to leave any of your questions there throughout the session, and Sebastian and I and my colleagues behind the scenes, Kayla and Tyler, will do our best to answer them later in the presentation. We also have other programs that focus on other aspects of student life, the different schools and colleges, so we encourage you to check those out as well if you haven't done so already. But with that being said, let's get started. Let me share my screen here for you, just 1 minute. Okay, so I think you should be able to see the screen. If not, you can let us know in the Q&A, but I think that should be working all right. And so to just give you a very brief overview of Boston University, BU is a large, private, urban teaching and research institution located in the great city of Boston, Massachusetts. It consists of 16,000 plus undergraduate students studying across 10 undergraduate schools and colleges with over 300 different programs of study. So our academic opportunities and offerings are as diverse as our global student body. Our students come from all 50 states and over 130 different countries, and 24% of our student body is international students, which puts us in the top 10 in the country for hosting the most international students on our campus, which we're really, really proud of. BU is a world-renowned institution that allows for intellectual growth, countless opportunities for personal and professional development, and an incredible dynamic community. So Sebastian, just to kind of give everybody a sense of what really drew you to Boston University, I'm sure you had a lot of great options coming out of high school. So why don't you tell us a little bit about why you ended up choosing BU?
Of course, definitely I knew I always wanted to be a film and television major, so that's the first thing I looked for in my colleges. I found that BU had one of the best programs in the country, and it has an amazing faculty who come from the most professional aspects of the film and entertainment industry, some execs, all that, and definitely field production services and other resources that they offer their students. So once I saw all those perks that a film and television student receives, as well as a life experience, I knew that BU was the right school for me.
Wonderful. That's a great introduction to the university. With that, I'll just dive right into, the different things that I think are really important for all of you to know about Boston University. First and foremost, academics. So you did mention a little bit in your introduction that film and television has always been a passion, but you also mentioned your business minor. So can you tell us a little bit about how you came to really develop not only your major, your interest in your major, but also in your minor?
Yeah, so definitely one thing that BU offers a lot is academic flexibility. So you can study things that are completely unrelated to your major. So for me, I picked up the business minor because I felt that in my own personal life, I was lacking in accounting skills, finance skills, basic business skills. So I felt like having a minor would make me a very well-rounded student, and would look great on a resume. So I picked up the minor. It was easy. It was super easy. It's just you had to fill out a letter of intent, fill out a form, and talk with an advisor, and you're instantly in the minor. And the minor consists of 6 classes in the Questrom School of Business, and these 6 classes are specifically chosen to be from all different fields that Questrom teaches. So it's definitely helped me grow as a business person, and it's helped me be a better person in my own major as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear about. And I think you're absolutely right. You know, academic flexibility is absolutely one of the things that I think makes us a really unique and special place. We don't put up barriers to any of the different, 300 plus majors and minors in any of our 10 schools and colleges. And we really do want students to explore all of their passions and all of their interests and to have the ability to change their mind, which I think is also really important. So students can major and minor across schools and colleges, do a double major, a dual degree. We also have accelerated programs. So there's a lot of opportunities for students to try out many different things academically. BU's general education curriculum, the BU Hub, is based on fulfilling 6 capacities, such as quantitative reasoning, scientific inquiry, and global citizenship, and intercultural literacy, just to name a few. There are many diverse courses to choose from, both inside and outside of your major, which will satisfy these requirements. So for example, for the quantitative reasoning capacity, you can take courses that are, very, very different that still fulfill that capacity. So for example, the economics of poverty and discrimination in the US, puzzles and paradoxes, and biochemistry. All of those will fulfill that requirement. For global citizenship and intercultural literacy, you can take classes such as water resources and the environment, contemporary East Asian economics, or Mediterranean diet, food, culture, and health. So again, it's not like we are dictating that you need to take a math class, a science class, anything like that. We're just saying, we want you to have these skills when you finish your time as a BU student, and then you really get to choose the classes that fit most with your interests and ways that you want to kind of form your academic experience. So I think that's also really special about BU's liberal arts program. Excuse me. At BU, we also offer academic advising to help support you and to help navigate your academic choices and course selection. We have different models of academic advising, both academic and pre-professional for those future doctors and lawyers out there. You will meet with your advisor during orientation and then throughout your time here as well. We have advisors for undeclared students too, and for each academic program that we offer. In terms of other kinds of support, we do also offer a first-year seminar class called FY 101, which is a great program. It's an optional class that you can take in your first year to really help you learn more about BU and the many resources available to you, including peer mentors and the Educational Resource Center and the Yaki Center for Human Services. With regard to the classroom experience at BU, you may be surprised to learn that we have a student to faculty ratio of just 10 to 1, so quite small for a large university as we are. We also have an average class size of just 27 students. Our faculty are very accessible here at BU as well. All of them hold office hours and love to meet with students, not only to assist with questions regarding coursework, but also really to serve as mentors and to help students reach their larger goals. Our faculty are truly leaders in their fields, including Pulitzer Prize winners, MacArthur Fellows, members of the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and more. Okay, moving on to the next section is research. So many students do connect with their faculty both inside and outside of the classroom and also through undergraduate research. BU is actually one of only 65 schools in the US who are members of the Association of American Universities, the AAU, which is a group of prestigious research institutions in North America. BU also provides over $550 million in research awards on campus, including money for undergraduates to get involved. Our Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, or UROP for short, UROP, provides financial support for student research, including stipends, supplies, and even travel for research, as well as transportation to professional meetings, both during the semester and over the summer. More than 250 students presented at the 22nd Annual Undergraduate Research Symposium in October of 2019 with some really outstanding research projects. For example, we have one in the STEM field because obviously there's a lot of research in STEM. So Rachel Pung, who was graduating this year, she worked to create sign language first technology, which removed historic barriers to online content access for deaf users in the digital age, which is really cool. In addition to that, though, we do also have a lot of students in the social sciences or in the humanities doing research at BU as well. Ashray Kumar, who graduated this past year, completed research into people's values and beliefs as those values and beliefs drive travel, comparing millennials and baby boomers. So really cool research going on both in the STEM fields and in the social sciences. BU also really prides itself on being in a place that excels in innovation. BU has been recognized by US News and World Report as number 27 on their list of most innovative universities. Two examples of this would be our Build Lab, for example, which is an on-campus collaboration space and information center where students and alumni are encouraged to work on new ventures and collaborative projects. Also, another example of this is our Ad Lab, which is the country's largest student-run ad agency through our College of Communication. Ad Lab gives students the opportunity to manage, create, and execute campaigns for real clients in the city of Boston, working in teams to solve business challenges through creative and strategic work. So there you go. It's a lot of research going on at BU, and that is just the research kind of outside of your classes. We also have a lot of in-class research and things that you're going to be doing just, as a typical student at BU as well. And Sebastian, you have a really cool example of the research you've done even as a film and television student. Go ahead.
Of course. So freshman year, I took a lot of gen ed classes, and one of my absolute favorite ones was Anthropology 101. So it's basically an introduction into how different cultures interact and how our different cultures can bleed into our most even minute actions. So one experiment the professor had us do was break a social norm in your daily life and record the results of how people react. So I decided to do the social norm of not breaking eye contact when accidentally making it with a stranger. So for my social experiment, I went on the T, which is a local train system, and I rode. And whenever I would make accidental eye contact with a stranger, instead of doing the normal thing and looking away, I would maintain the eye contact, and I would just observe how the person reacts. Like they're looking back and forth, like is he still looking at me? And so then I'd record the results in a journal, and I had to write a long report about it and do a presentation in class. But it was such a fun and unique research experience that I didn't think I was going to get to do as a film and television major. But I definitely appreciated it. It was fun, a little uncomfortable, of course, breaking a social norm. But that just shows that at BU, you're not limited to just what you're doing in your major. You can always explore other things.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I couldn't have asked for a better example. I love that example, just of like doing really quirky research that is so far outside of what you might have thought you'd be doing, as a high school student for your college work. So thank you for sharing that. I really like that experience. In addition to research, we also really pride ourselves on internships and finding real world experiences. Research and innovation are just two of the many experiential learning opportunities that BU offers its students. For example, opportunities to learn outside of the classroom and gain real world experience are also happening through our study abroad and internship programs. BU actually boasts one of the oldest and largest study abroad programs in the country. It is an extension of the global community that we are so proud to have on our campus. We have over 90 study abroad programs in over 30 cities on 6 continents around the world. Approximately 40% of BU students study abroad at least once during their undergraduate years, which is pretty impressive given the size of our campus. Students are able to explore cities, languages, and cultures all over the world while still staying on track to graduate, no matter their major. All of our students can study abroad. Students of all majors are able to go to London, for example, throughout the academic year, which is our largest program. We also have programs in Australia, in different areas of Europe, in Latin America, so you can go to many different places. We also offer guaranteed internships as part of our study abroad programs. Many of these internships are built into students' academic programs, as is the case with our School of Hospitality and the Questrom School of Business. Not only are our students interning while they're abroad, though, they're also interning here in the city of Boston. About 89% of our students will have at least one internship by the time they graduate, and many will have even more than that. This correlates directly with the fact that within 6 months of graduating, 96% of our students are either employed, full-time employed, or in graduate school. Internships also provide students with the practical experience they need while giving them the experience and the skills that employers are looking for. So we really recognize how important they are. Our Center for Career Development assists our students in getting these internships through Handshake, job and internship fairs, and mock interviews. Our location in the city of Boston also allows our students to have multiple internships as they're able to balance a part-time job during their semester alongside their courses. So again, you have a lot of opportunity for that. Sebastian has a lot to talk about in terms of internships. Like I mentioned, 96% of students have at least one. Sebastian has had more than that even. So would you mind telling everybody a little bit about what you've been able to do during your time as a BU student?
Of course. One resource I have to plug every single time because it's so helpful, so useful, and it's helped me so much land different internships is, as Sam mentioned, Handshake. Handshake is a platform similar to LinkedIn, but specifically tailored to college students. So BU has its own portal for its own students, and there you can upload like documents, your resume, cover letters, reels, portfolios, things like that. So it's super useful. It shows you not only internships around Boston, but also internships around the country, wherever you're looking for full-time jobs, part-time jobs, whatever it is in your field or outside of it. So I was able to land a digital marketing internship at a cloud storage company through Handshake in Boston. So I worked near the Prudential Tower. So it was a great area, great time. I got to edit commercials and write scripts for commercials and stuff like that to promote this service to different clients. I also was able to land internships back home in Los Angeles through Handshake. So I got an internship as a video editor for this TV show that aired in Spain. So I got to shoot the episodes and as well as edit them. And I even did an internship in abroad in London through the USA program, which is a third party that connects BU students to internships abroad. So, like Sam said, there's so many opportunities, there's so many resources to get them, and I think Handshake for me has been the most useful and most helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for sharing those experiences. That's pretty in line with what I've heard from a lot of other BU students as well. Handshake is a great resource. The Center for Career Development is a wonderful resource as well. We really want to make sure that you have as much opportunity to pursue as many experiential learning opportunities as possible. So it's good to know it's working. Okay, transitioning to the next section. There we go. So in addition to all of the amazing academic and experiential opportunities our students engage in, our students also enjoy their downtime, both on campus and in the city of Boston. So Sebastian, I'm going to call on you again. Do you mind telling us a little bit about student clubs and organizations at BU in general, and then tell us what kinds of activities you are involved in at BU?
Yeah, of course. BU definitely has so much to offer for whatever you're interested in. There's some really broad clubs that have to do with academics, culture, and there's some really niche ones. Like one of the admissions members started a cheese club that's all about sampling different kinds of cheeses. So, and she started it on her own, just filled out an application with Student Activities Office, and they approved it, and she started a club just like that. So, if you find there's so many clubs, 450 plus, and if you don't find something that interests you, which is already pretty hard because there's so many things offered. You can even start your own with whatever you're interested in. Personally, myself, I love cultural and academic clubs. So I'm part of Alianza Latina, which is one of the largest Latinx clubs on campus. And I am, for academically, I'm part of BU TV 10, which is a student-run TV channel on campus where different shows are produced. And last semester, I was producer for a culinary TV show called The Hungry Terrier. So those are just two examples of over the so many different clubs on campus. And like I said, if you don't find something you like, which is already hard enough, you can always start your own, like the Cheese Club.
Yeah, definitely. So lots of different things you can get involved in. We have over 450 different student clubs and activities ranging from athletics to just about everything to do with, music, the arts, theater. Community service is really big at BU. We have a great community service center, all of those different things. And then obviously there's a lot to do on BU's campus, but there's also a lot to do in the city of Boston. So why don't you tell us also a little bit about what you think about the city and the things that are your favorite things to do in Boston?
I love Boston because it's a great mix of a small town and a big city. Coming from Los Angeles, which is 4 million plus people, to this was definitely a big change in population. But I loved it because Boston is so walkable. You can get anywhere walking or on the T, which, like I said earlier, is the public transit system. There's a BU shuttle. There's a lot of ways to get around town, and there's so many things to do. Not only the touristy areas, but there's so many like little nooks and crannies. I love going to Newberry, which is the shopping district, and there's like a bookstore there called Trident, which has the best cafe and so many offerings on different books. Not only Boston too, but I like the surrounding cities around campus, such as Allston, Brighton, Brookline. These are all small cities right outside the boundaries of Boston, but they have so many things on their own. There's a Coolidge Corner, which is like looks like a street straight out of the 50s. It has its own independent theater, stuff like that. Alston has amazing food from so many different cultures. I love going to a restaurant called Punjab Palace, which is the best Indian food I've had in Boston by far. And there's just so much to do in Boston, especially in the summer, even in the winter. And I highly recommend, no matter what you're doing, always take the time to go out and explore the city because I fell in love with the city in the course of my 4 years here.
Oh, that's really nice. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, so I think thank you so much, Sebastian, for sharing all of your, experiences, your time as a BU student. That pretty much concludes my very brief introduction to just Boston University in general, but I do also want to talk briefly about the application process, since I know that's why a lot of you are tuned in as well. So with that, Sebastian, you're free to turn off your camera for now. We'll call you back for Q&A in just a few minutes. But with that, let's jump into the application process. Thank you. Okay, so as you have probably heard, if you've been attending, more than just this one information session, there's kind of a hot keyword in admissions these days, and it's called a holistic review. And basically what that means is when we are reviewing your application, it's not just a test score or a GPA that's going to get you admitted to the university. It truly is every aspect of your application. We look at everything. And to what end, you might ask? Well, we are looking for, here you can see, I won't read them all verbatim, but you can see that the general goal is to admit a diverse student body of really academically gifted and well-rounded students, motivated students. We want to make sure that we have a comprehensive review of a student's, both at their academic life and their life outside of the classroom. And we want to consider the context of where students are coming from, both in terms of what is offered at their school and in terms of just their general life, experiences and background. That's what a holistic review means. And so here you can see, when I say that we're an international, a diverse institution, you can see that I'm not joking around. We have students applying from all over the world, over 163 countries last year, over 61,000 applications. So it was a really competitive year in BU's history, but we're very proud to be so popular, not just in the US, but internationally as well. In terms of what to expect, kind of just, in terms of what our student body looks like, you can kind of see here, we have students from all different parts of the United States and internationally. We're very diverse, and when I say that, I don't just mean geographically, but also racially, ethnically, religiously, socioeconomically. 15% of students in this most recent class that is on campus just this year is first generation, the first in their families to attend higher education. So we're very proud of the fact that we have students from all different walks of life. Truly, it's that kind of thing that makes it, I think, a special place to go to school, where you're learning from everybody around you, because everybody is so different from you, but so similar at the same time. In terms of recommended high school curriculum, so you can see here there shouldn't be any major surprises. 4 years of English, 3 to 4 years of math, lab science, history, social science, and a foreign language. We do also accept a wide variety of international curricula, such as the International Baccalaureate program, A-levels, the French Bac, whatever it might be, we probably know about it. So you can ask us more specific questions about that later. But for right now, I'll just focus on kind of the main kinds of curricula. I will say that we don't typically have any requirements for any particular major at the university when you first apply. The only exception to that is if you are interested in business or engineering. Those are very math heavy subjects. So in that case, we would like to see calculus somewhere on your transcript. Again, only for business and for engineering. It does not have to be AP calculus. Regular calculus is fine, but we do find the students who have calculus on their transcript tend to have an easier transition, again, just to business and engineering. If you're looking for communication or arts and sciences or something like that, any level of math is okay. So it's just, again, for business and engineering. Okay, so this is something that we call the presenter. This is kind of our way to give you an inside look into what we as members of the Board of Admissions are really looking for when we are looking at a student's application. And so for us, you can see here, there's many different parts to a student's application, right? There's their grades and their curriculum, standardized test scores, which we'll get to in just a minute, your essays, and personalized highlights, which are your letters of recommendation and your extracurricular activities. Oftentimes, I will ask students, what do you think is the most important part of your application? I'll have students raise their hands, and students will give me everything under the sun. They'll raise their hands for curriculum, for transcript, for their test scores. They don't really know what's the most important part. And so to kind of get rid of any rumors that might be out there, I will tell you, I can only speak for Boston University, but I think that this is largely true for most other competitive institutions in the US. It is actually your transcript. So it's the combination of your grades and your curriculum that really is probably the most important part of your application. Again, they're all important. It is a holistic review, but if I had to choose one that stood a little bit above the rest, I would say your transcript. And the reason for that is when you think about it, what are you ultimately applying for? You're applying for a position at an academic institution, right? So that means that if we admit you, we want to have confidence that you're going to be able to do well, to be successful, to go on to good things, you know, after you graduate from the university. And so we find that the best measure for success for students when they actually get to campus is not an SAT score, is not an essay, is not your extracurriculars, but it is your transcript, that 3 or 4 year history of how well you've done in your courses and what courses have you chosen? Have you taken advantage of what is offered at your school? And so that's why that tends to be the most important part of your application. But again, of course, it is more complicated than that. So let's dig into this a little bit. Here you can see that Charlotte is doing very well. Generally, her grades are on a bit of an upward trend. So I wish I could move these down, but let's say that she even maybe had a little bit of a lower GPA, maybe a 3.4 or 3.3 for grade 9. That, you know, that is something that we hear from students, that they had a tougher transition to high school. It took them a little while to adjust. If that's the case for you, that is okay. Even though it might bring down your total GPA, what we're really looking for is not to admit the 9th grader, right? It's to admit the senior student. So if we see that overall your grades are kind of on an upward trend, or at least that they've stayed pretty stable, that's really what we would want to see. What we would not so much like to see is kind of the opposite of that, where you start off really strong and then it just kind of, you know, declines from there. We want to see that you're generally, you know, able to keep up with your coursework and that you're doing well. Of course, if there's a dip in your senior year coursework, say, for example, because of a global pandemic, then that, of course, is something that we are going to be aware of, something that we're going to take into consideration. Every high school has managed this a little bit differently. Some students went pass-fail. Some students have a separate grading scale for what has been a crazy year this past year. So we will take all of this in stride and with understanding. So please know that. But just know that when it comes to your GPA, it's not just the GPA number. We're also looking at the trends in your grades, and we're looking at the context of what was going on in your life or in the world, you know, as we go through your transcript. So just to be aware of that. In terms of your curriculum, really the point of this is to show you again that it's not about GPA. If you have a 4.0 GPA and you have taken no AP courses at a school that offers, you know, 25 AP courses, then all that really tells us is that you probably could have worked harder and taken more rigorous courses and done well in them. You know, a 4.0 GPA is not going to save you. You're probably going to be less competitive than a student who maybe has a 3.6 GPA, but who did take advantage of the AP courses offered at their school. And so again, not just about GPA. We want to see that you kind of found that Goldilocks zone, that, you know, happy middle ground where you are able to still do well in your courses, but you have also taken challenging courses, you know, more rigorous courses that are offered at your school. The other important takeaway is, you know, if you go to a school that doesn't offer APs, or maybe your school offers one AP course, are you going to be measured against all of these students taking, you know, 4, 5, 6 AP courses? The answer is no. Again, we are going to assess you within the context of the school that you are coming from. So if your school offers one AP course and you are in it, congratulations, you're in the most, you know, rigorous curriculum that your high school offers. And we will take that into consideration. So we're very much more about assessing students within the context of their school group, rather than just putting everyone together and comparing everybody at the same time, because everybody's coming from a different place with different resources. So for the IB, if some of you who are tuning in are students doing the International Baccalaureate program, this is just one example of what that could look like for all of you. Obviously, you know, you're kind of forced into a well-rounded curriculum in the IB, which for the purposes of applying to a liberal arts university is not a bad thing. But again, we don't have any specific requirements in terms of your curriculum. We just want to see generally that the courses you're taking are, you know, relevant to the courses that you want to study at university. I will also say, like I mentioned before with the math component, if you're applying for business or engineering from the IB, we will take any math, standard level or higher level, with the exception of standard level math applications. So any other math is fine, but standard level math applications is not super appropriate for business or for engineering. But again, if you have more specific questions about that, you can let us know in the Q&A a little bit later. Okay. And then kind of what I was talking about before, if your school does not offer AP courses, that's okay. Just take the courses that are offered to you, try and challenge yourself within the context of what's offered, you know, what you can do, and we will look at that and take that into consideration. Okay, with regard to standardized testing, so this is the big change for us. We are test optional for all first-year applicants for this current academic year. So any student who is a senior now applying to BU, you do not have to worry about submitting test scores to us this year. It is completely optional. I should say that that only applies to the SAT and the ACT. If English is not your first language, we do still require proof of English proficiency exams. So that could be either through the TOEFL exam, the IELTS exam. We are also this year brand new accepting the Duolingo English test, which is a bit less expensive and can be taken from home as well. So those are your 3 options for English proficiency. But outside of that, again, test optional. Some students I can kind of see are saying, but is that really the case? Should I still submit my test scores if I have them? And so to that, I will say, so here you can see this red section right here. That's the middle 50% of students last year. That's what their test scores were that we admitted. So that means that we also admitted 25% of students with scores below 1420 and 25% of students with scores above 1540. And so 1470, 1480 is right kind of in the middle of those averages. I would say if you have test scores in those averages or higher already and you want to submit those test scores to us, by all means, you can. It's certainly not going to hurt your application. But if your test scores are below those averages, I would really think carefully about whether or not you want to submit your test scores to us. That's a good question for your counselor as well. I will tell you, submitting a test score just for the sake of submitting a test score is not a good reason, especially if your grades are strong. If you have really strong grades and you have testing that is technically below our averages, even a 1400 on the SAT, that's a strong SAT score. You should be proud of that. But it is technically below our averages, and so it may end up being more of a hindrance to you than a positive. But again, it depends. That's something that you would want to talk to your counselor about and really think about. But my general advice is if you have scores in and around our averages or better, you can submit your scores. If not, then you want to kind of have a bigger conversation with yourself and your counselor about it. Okay, moving on. Application essays. So this is another area that I know is tricky when it comes to figuring out what we're looking for, what we kind of expect from students. Really, we're looking for just 2 things. We're looking for the writing quality of your essay. We're looking for the content of your essay. Writing quality wise, we really just want to see that you're not making any silly mistakes, right? So you should be using spell check. You shouldn't have any misspelled words. You shouldn't have really big run-on sentences or things that aren't capitalized that should be capitalized. You should have these things down pat by now, for sure. And so just seeing that you are taking this seriously, that you're submitting your best quality writing is something that we're definitely looking for. Content-wise, it can be a little tricky. We're not going to tell you that there's one specific thing we would want to see in your essay, but I will tell you, as somebody who has now read thousands of these essays, the ones that really stand out to me are the ones where I can tell that a student is really enjoying writing their essay about something that they are passionate about. I think a lot of times students worry so much about what we want to see as admissions officers that they will write about something that maybe, is not what they really want to write about. It's maybe not what they're passionate about, but they feel like that's the thing that they should write to get them into college. Try not to do that. The point of this essay is for us to get to know you better, not just to get to know, a part of your life better, a challenge you've overcome, somebody who's made a big influence on you, the reason why you're motivated to study what you want to study. Those are all good things. And I would like to hear about, any of them from you, but it has to come from you. It has to be something you're excited to write about. And ideally, it has a little bit of your personality infused in your essay as well. I like where I can kind of feel like I hear the student talking to me through their essay. That's always helpful for me in getting a sense of what the student is really all about. So kind of having the confidence to say, this is what I really want to write about. This is what I find is interesting about my experience, and just going for it and not worrying about what we are looking for, because we're really just looking to get to know you and to have a piece of writing that really shows us who you are as a student, as an individual. I should mention that this year we are also, the Common Application and the Coalition Application are giving the students the option to write a COVID essay. It's an optional essay, so you don't have to write about it. But for students that are maybe looking to write about something other than COVID for their main Common Application essay, this gives students a place where they can still write about, any challenges that they faced during this time, things they overcame, things they did to keep themselves sane during this time. Anything that you feel adds color, adds context to your COVID experience, you can put it in that optional essay. You know, it's not really going to be reviewed the same way as your main common application essay. It's really just there, again, for us to gain a little bit more insight and context into your experience. So it's not like you're going to gain points or lose points if you do or don't do the optional essay. It's just there if you feel like you have something to say. So no pressure to fill it out if you don't really want to. Oh, sorry, one other thing about essays, the supplemental essay for BU. So we only have one that we require of students, but it is the most typical one that you'll probably get, which is, why do you want to study at Boston University? And every year I get students who say, I want to come to BU because I love the Red Sox, which is the baseball team in Boston. That's cool. We love the Red Sox too, but so do the 60 other colleges and universities in the Boston area, right? That doesn't tell me anything about why you want to come to BU. That tells me why you want to come have a vacation in Boston. The other one that I get that is my all-time favorite, which I will never understand why students think this is a good idea, but they say, you know, why do you want to come to Boston University? Because it's close to Harvard and MIT. It's a terrible reason to want to come to Boston University, right? So don't make that mistake. The point of these essays is to be specific, to tell us why you are applying to Boston University intentionally, right? And so that means even if you just take 5 or 10 minutes, go to our website and, you know, find a class you think is really interesting, a club you might want to join, an internship or a research program that looks cool, a study abroad program. You know, if you can name 3 or 4 really specific things about BU that really, you know, excite you about the university, that's what we want to hear about. That'll show us that, like, wow, okay, the student really did their research. They're really serious about BU. And so that can be a real game changer. I think that some students think that because these supplemental essays are smaller, that they're less important. And so they maybe save them until the end, or they don't really write them very well. Please don't make that mistake. Oftentimes they're even more important than the main common application essay. Because if you think about it, if we have 2 students who are pretty similar in terms of, you know, their academics are strong, their writing is generally fine, good extracurriculars, but one student, you know, wrote about wanting to come because of the Red Sox, and one student wrote because they, you know, these 3 or 4 specific things about BU, yeah, we're probably going to tip in the student who showed that they actually are interested in our university. So it can make a big difference in your application. Try also to avoid shortcuts like writing a really general essay and swapping out the names of different universities and colleges. It never works. It's very easy to see through that kind of essay, and it opens you up to errors. I've also heard students who, you know, why do you want to come to BU? Because Northeastern is my dream school. So close. So don't do that, please. Again, take the time to really put in the effort for these essays. It will benefit your application 10 times out of 10. I promise you that. So that is my essay advice. Okay, letters of recommendation. We do require 1 from a counselor and 1 from a teacher. If you want to submit more than that, you may. Some students like to have 2 from a teacher. That's fine. I would not submit any more than 3 total, though. We just don't have time to read more than that. But you can submit, you know, any letters of recommendation you want, as long as it's not really more than 3. In terms of extracurriculars, so this is the other one that has really been affected by COVID. Obviously, we're not going to expect to see the typical extracurricular activities this year. I really do feel for those of you out there, you know, seniors this year who maybe were hoping to be captains of their sports teams, you know, first chair musicians, and maybe it's not happening for you the way that you imagined, but that's okay. I mean, we are going to be understanding of that, certainly, and not expect to see the usual extracurriculars. What we really want to see is just whatever you've been doing in your downtime to keep you hopefully happy and healthy, whether that's taking up knitting or starting a blog or finding creative ways to do community service, taking care of your siblings, learning to cook a little bit to help out your parents, you know, whatever the case may be, those are the things that are going to count as extracurriculars this year, in addition to whatever else you may or may not be able to do in school. So, you know, please rest assured that we are the humans on the other side of this process who have been going through the same thing that you all have been going through. And so we are going to be understanding. We're going to look at it within the context of what's been going on this past year. So you don't have to worry about that. We just want to know, you know, what you've been up to, basically. And then more about yourself, if you have any leadership experience, you know, awards, work experience, general life experience, again, anything that you think adds color or context to your application, those are the things that we want to hear about. So yeah, I think that is pretty much the gist of the presentation. So I hope that that was a helpful exercise, the presenter, and just getting you to learn a little bit more about how we review applications. A few more slides and then we will hop into the Q&A section. So you can see here, we do offer 2 rounds of early decision as well as regular decision, and we did admit 46% of the class this past year through ED1 and ED2 rounds. And so it's becoming a bigger percentage of the class. I would say if you know BU is your top choice school and you're comfortable in committing to the university in that way, it can help, it can benefit your application, give you a little bit of a bump in competitiveness, because we do want to admit students who are really excited about Boston University. But again, because it's binding, you really do need to be ready to commit at the time you apply ED. Here again are the deadlines. So for ED1, you would apply by November 1st and submit your application and get your decision by December 15th. For ED2, you would apply by January 1st, get your decision by February 15th. And for regular decision, you would apply also by January 1st and get your decision by mid to late March. We do also have 2 merit scholarships that all students, domestic and international, are eligible for. Oh, I skipped ahead. The trustee and the presidential. And so the trustee scholarship is the full tuition and fees, the full ride scholarship. For that, you would have to apply, as you can see, by December 1st, and also write an additional essay. So that is for the full tuition scholarship. The presidential is $25,000 per year. And so for that, you would need to just apply by December 1st, and you're automatically considered. So it's really easy. You don't have to submit an extra essay. You don't even have to check a box on the application that says you're interested. As long as you apply by December 1st, you're automatically considered for that scholarship. And just because the deadline is December 1st does not mean you have to apply early decision. You can still apply regular decision, but just apply early to be eligible for the scholarships. Okay, and to round it out, financial assistance. So for those of you out there who are US citizens, permanent residents, green card holders, in addition to the merit scholarships, you're also eligible for need-based aid. So you can see we have a lot of very generous funding for undergraduate students. We actually now meet 100% of need for admitted first-year students based on your demonstrated need from the CSS profile and the FAFSA. So you can see our average financial aid award here as well. So that's something that we're very proud to be able to offer. Please make sure that you submit those CSS profile and FAFSA applications with your application by those deadlines to make sure that you get the best shot at a good package as possible. But we recognize that this is a big decision, not just for the student who's applying, but for your whole family. Could have really big consequences to your financial situation, and so we want to make BU as much of a viable option as we can, and so this is one of the ways that we are doing that. So hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better about the whole situation. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen for the moment, and I will bring Sebastian back, and we can have maybe just 10 minutes or so of Q&A. So now is the time if you want to leave your questions in the Q&A box. We can answer maybe a few questions, and then we can close out this session. So thanks for joining me again, Sebastian. We appreciate it. It looks like we have, let me ask, okay, so this is a good one. I'm sure all of the current high school students watching this are curious. How is the dorm life and the food? I will let you take that one.
I really enjoyed my freshman year dorms. It's definitely a different experience to live in a dorm your freshman year versus the rest of college, because freshman year you're gonna live generally, not always, but generally in one of 2 places: Warren Towers or West. Warren Towers and West are both like these huge buildings, like they each contain over 1,000 students each, and the way each floor is designed is that there's one big common room in the middle. So like it makes socializing a lot easier. Different situation now, of course, but normally that's how you do it. So it was amazing living with all my friends in one floor. We'd go into each other's rooms, just talk or hang out in the common room. And then the best thing about Warren and West is the dining hall is on the first floor. So you can, if you're craving food, if you're just hungry, you can literally take the elevator down and just walk to the dining hall without ever having to leave either building. So it was a great experience. The food, there is a little bit of competition between the different dining halls, but so for me, my favorite one absolutely is Warren Towers, because I grew up in, not grew up, I did kind of grow up in Warren Towers freshman year, and I love the food. It's so homey. I think it has the best desserts, and I love the food at BU. It's definitely one of the best in the country, I think, statistically speaking. And I hope you get to experience some of the food BU has to offer because it's definitely really diverse. They offer stuff from different cultures. And they have like special series where they invite a chef, a local chef, to come prepare a menu for the dining hall a couple times a year. So definitely a lot of things going on in dining hall and a lot of things going on in the dorms.
Absolutely. I love the food as well. It was good when I was a student there, many, many years ago, and I think it continues to be really, really good. So not to worry about that. Another question, how easy is it to switch majors? So this is what we were talking about again, also with academic flexibility. It is really, really easy to switch majors if you wanted to do that. Say that you start as an economics major in the College of Arts and Sciences, and then you take some classes in the business school and you think, oh, I think I really want business. You can change into the business school. You might have to take a couple of courses as prerequisites and get at least, a certain grade, a B or something like that in those courses to be able to transfer. But as long as you can do that, you can transfer into any of the 10 schools and colleges. If you want to change your major to just a different major within the school or college you're already in, it's even easier. You just meet with your advisor and basically fill out a form and you're done. So yes, it is very easy to switch majors. I think that's one of the things that's great about BU is that we don't put up any barriers. We allow students to explore as much as they want and then graduate with the subject area that they're most, passionate about. So I like that. I like that we're able to offer that to students. Another question that I wanted to ask you that I saw is, do we have any BU traditions? What are the BU traditions at BU that are really fun that you enjoy? So why don't you talk about those a little bit?
There are so many traditions at BU. Some of them they happen, some of them you just stumble upon them. My personal favorite one is the Calm Lawn Ice Cream Social, which all the clubs in the college communication come out and kind of recruit people, and they give out free ice cream. So I'm never going to say no to free ice cream. And they do it on the big quad in front of the college communication building. It's in the beginning of the fall, so the weather is still pretty warm. You get to go out, walk around, eat ice cream, say hi to any friends you haven't seen all summer. It's a great experience. If you're interested in like college communication stuff, like working in the BUTV 10 channel or the radio station WTBU, which is student run as well, or like any other club that pertains to like entertainment or communications, you just go on ahead and sign up at Kamla and Ice Cream Social. As I mentioned earlier, there is Splash, which is when all the clubs from all over campus come onto Nickerson Field, or now it's virtual, and they kind of recruit students. You can join whatever club you want. I always usually sign up for too many to count. And my absolute favorite part is all the free stuff they give out, free stickers, free mugs, backpacks, stuff like that. So it's a great place. I usually like to bring my own little bag so I can put all my free stuff in there. And the last one I'm going to mention, which is a pretty quintessential one, is the pumpkin drop. So the pumpkin drop is conducted by the physics department, and they basically cordon off a section right outside of the physics building, and a couple professors go up to the top with some of their students, and they like fill these big pumpkins full of like cream or glitter or stuff like that, and they drop them from the top of the building onto like this cordon off area, and they watch them go splat just to test out if gravity still works. They do it annually, and a lot of people, that's how I found out, by walking by one of the pumpkin drops. I freaked out, like, oh my god, what's going on? And I walked and I saw it, and it's great. A lot of students gather around to watch, and if you stand in the front row, you do get a little bit of goo on you. So it's fun if you want to get a little dirty. And it's one of the many, many great traditions that BU offers. So there's a lot of things going on. You stumble upon it or you know about it. Just go out and explore campus, and you'll find something really interesting going on with the students and faculty.
Yeah, for sure. There is always something going on at BU. Another one of my favorites for traditions is BU Lobster Night, where everybody at BU gets a lobster for dinner if you want one, which is really cool. There is also kind of a fun tradition where, there's a big BU seal on the floor in front of Marsh Chapel, which is one of the more centrally located buildings on our campus. And the legend says that if you step on the seal before you graduate, you won't graduate. And so people avoid the seal at all costs. And then as soon as they graduate, they have their diploma in hand, they run over to the seal and just jump all over it. So it's kind of a fun thing also that you can do as a BU student. Another question that I see, I'll answer this one. This one is kind of specific, but I have personal experience, so I will answer. Are there any language programs aside from majors? And to be specific, are there any Chinese opportunities? I fashion myself a linguist. I love learning different languages, and BU offers many, I think over 20 languages we offer, some as majors, some as minors, some just to, if you wanted to just take the class and not do it as a major or a minor, you could do that as well. For your foreign language requirement or just for fun. In terms of Chinese, I actually was a Chinese minor at Boston University, so I have experience with that. The Chinese program is fabulous. I learned a lot and I still use it in my everyday in my work, even for Boston University, so it's a wonderful program. Okay, next question. How big, Sebastian, are sports at Boston University? Do people really go to the games? What is popular? How does that go?
So there is a lot of school spirit in Boston. Don't be fooled by the big size or by the city campus. There is so much school spirit, especially for our main sport that so many students gather around, which is hockey. If you don't know already, BU has one of the best hockey teams in the nation. A lot of our students actually go to the Olympics or get recruited by the NHL, and they do games with local schools or schools from around the country, and they're always so electric. I think there's a section called the Dog Pound, or the Pound, I think that's what it's called, where like VU students go and they get all riled up and cheer for the game. And the big thing where like people really come out to support is the Bean Pot, which is when I think it's Harvard, Northeastern, BU, and Boston College. The four of them go toe to toe in this huge competition at TD Garden, which is a huge stadium in Boston where like the Bruins play, where the Celtics play. So they go there. A lot of BU students go to TD Garden to watch, and they like sit and they do chants and stuff and then they do like games with other students from other colleges. And so many people come out to these games. Like they're so much fun. It gets so crazy. I love it. Um, and just watching people go crazy for BU, it makes you feel like, oh my God, I'm really part of this community. There's so much cool spirit. It makes you so proud to be a Terrier. And so I love the Bean Pot. There's, of course, all of the games like soccer, basketball. I just mentioned hockey because that's the one people go like the most insane for. And as for sports for you to play, there's so many things you can do. I did intramural volleyball, which is like intramurals. You form a team with your friends. You play in like friendly competitions with other teams. It's nothing serious. You don't have to train or anything. You just show up and you play. And you do ranked tournaments, and it's so much fun. It's so casual too. So my team and I literally never practiced. We just showed up to the games to play, ready to go. We lost a couple, but we won a couple too. So we did pretty good. So you can be involved intramural. Of course, there's a classic sports where like there's teams and a club and all that. So definitely sports are a big thing at BU. We even have like unique sports like Quidditch and ultimate frisbee. So there's something for everybody in terms of sports. Whether you want to be a casual player or like a professional, there's always something going on in terms of sports.
Yeah, definitely. It's very popular at BU, as are, a lot of other extracurriculars. The next one I want to address is one that I know is on a lot of students' minds that are applying this year or even further down the line, and that is, how are we managing the pandemic, and are we thinking about having mostly online courses for this coming year or even beyond that? And so I will tell you that BU has done a lot in terms of really trying to keep everyone, our students, our faculty, our staff safe and healthy on campus. We've taken measures, for example, all students have to be tested twice a week, and all of those tests are done at BU's medical school, so you'll get the results very quickly. We also make sure that students are kind of rotating with virtual classes and in-person classes, so that you're never in, an indoor setting with more people than can fit within 6 feet of you. So you're always kind of spread out as well. We also have some harsher measures. If students are caught, disregarding these mandates and with 25 people or more, they could face some very serious consequences as a result of that. So we really want to make sure we're taking this very, very seriously, making sure that everybody is safe. Sebastian, I'll let you kind of address how you've been dealing as a current student now. How are you finding how BU has handled the pandemic so far?
I've definitely felt very secure at BU. Coming in, I had a lot of trepidation, but seeing how BU has handled it has really like made me feel safe and secure. I do get tested twice a week, and just when you get the notification they turned out negative, just makes you like sigh a big relief. So it's definitely nice to be tested and know for sure. BU has quarantine housing set up in case you do test positive, but we have a pretty high recovery rate for students. And some like the measures are you can't invite people from outside of your building into your building. So that just gives you more time to be close with your roommates because nobody can be inside the building but people who live there. So what are you going to do but have fun with your roommates, get to know them more, play games. So my roommates are still my very close friends, but we've gotten so much closer because we just have each other's company. And so it's great. It's a fun time. They do have like masks are required in class and all around campus. And it's just, even if it wasn't required, it's nice to have consideration for other students and understand that wearing a mask does protect other people, and it also keeps you protected. So it's just a duty to have as a global citizen. And we do daily symptom surveys. So every day you have to do a survey where you report any symptoms you might be feeling, or if you're feeling perfectly fine, then you say that. But it just helps you kind of keep track of like who's feeling okay, who's feeling a little under the weather, and whether that can be a risk or is just you're just okay. So I definitely feel really safe at BU, and I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but for myself, in my own personal experience, feel safe. My friends feel safe, and we're happy that we're able to be on campus despite what's going on, but also while maintaining these good safety measures.
Excellent. Glad to hear that it's going well. In terms of how this is going to affect, students moving forward for, this coming academic year, this year has only just begun. We're really hoping that just we get through the fall and everyone remains, safe and healthy and happy. Beyond that, we're not really sure what next fall is going to look like for students. We are hopeful that things will return to even a closer semblance to normal as they would, especially, it's going to depend a lot on the vaccine. It's going to depend on, trends in the US generally. So we're keeping a close eye on it. The one thing that we can promise you is that we will keep in touch and we will be sure to inform you of any things, any new policies or regulations that come up from Boston University. So we'll keep you posted, but thank you for asking that question. A couple more, just two more questions, and then we will close this out. But these are fairly easy ones. We'll get to them really quickly. The first one is, what do I do if I want to take a gap year? Good question. You can take a gap year. You can do it one of two ways. You can either apply while you're still a high school student, and then once you get your admission, you can defer your admission for a year. And so, that is up to you. That's your call. Or you could just take your gap year right after high school, and then during your gap year, you can choose to apply to Boston University and then come after your gap year. But, gap years are becoming more and more a common thing. It's not something that's, looked down upon or frowned upon by any means. You're treated really just like any other student. So if you want to do that, that's fine. That does also bring up another question I've been getting from students who are concerned that because of the number of students that deferred their admission this past year, that it's going to be more competitive for them to apply for this coming year. I will tell you that, if you had asked me in March if I thought that a lot of students were going to defer or take a gap year, I would have said, yeah, we're expecting a lot of students to do that. It turns out, and not just at BU, but for a lot of my colleagues at other universities as well, a lot of students were really still committed to starting their academic coursework on time. So we did see a little bit of a bump in deferral requests and gap year requests, but not anything, not the tidal wave that we were expecting. And so it's not affecting, our intake numbers for this next coming year. So you can breathe a sigh of relief there. We're not expecting to make any changes. It shouldn't be any more competitive for you than it would be in a normal year. And the last question for you, Sebastian, are there internship opportunities for the film major specifically? I'm gonna venture a yes, but I will let you take that question.
Yeah, there's so many, like I said earlier, there's so many opportunities for film and TV students, whether it's through college communication has its own center of career development besides the general one for the whole university. The college has its own. You can always speak to an advisor there and keep in touch and see what they have to offer. The college communication also sends out a weekly newsletter that has like an update on like new internships that have popped up in Warner Media, HBO, different film and television companies. So they're always like trying to send you new opportunities that might interest you and might like pique your interest. Like I said, there's Handshake. Handshake is always so useful. It's a LinkedIn for students. And there's, despite Boston not being like a film town like LA, there's still so many opportunities, whether it's through Handshake or my professor or your professors. I had a professor who had his own film studio in Somerville, which is just across the river from Boston. And he would recruit his interns, like recruit any interns from his classes. Like, are you interested? You seem like you're really interested and want to expand your career. Do you want to come work for me as an intern at my film studio? So like, that's one example of how professors are also offering these opportunities. But there's Handshake, there's the Center for Career Development professors. There's so many different ways to get an internship for film, because there's also like independent film studios and stuff like that in Boston, in the Boston area. So there's no short supply of internships for film and TV majors.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sebastian. That was great. I think that will conclude the Q&A section, but I do have just two more slides I want to share with you. I want to thank you again, first of all, for all attending this session. We really appreciate you tuning in during this busy time. We know that you may still have some lingering questions. We weren't able to get to all of them. You guys submitted a lot of them, so thank you for that. But here are some ways that you can stay connected during this time. If you want to connect with student ambassadors, you can do visit FBU. And then if you wanted to connect with us, the Board of Admissions, you can just do the general inbox, which is admissions, or if you're an international student, intadmis@bu.edu is a great resource for you as well. And then, staying up with us on our social media, on our website as well, is another way to just keep in touch and ask us any questions on those platforms as well. So thank you again so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And with that, I think I will end the session. So thank you all for coming. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you, everybody.